So we want to actually start extracting some data out of this page that's at risk of a blind SQL injection attack. And how we do this is all going to come down to the sorts of questions we can ask. So just before, we found that if we sorted the results and we went to power, we had this reference to a power KW column. Now when we did this, we had the Bugatti Veyron in position number 1. Now if we sort by top speed, we can see that now the order by clause is top speed KM, and we've now got the Koenigsegg in position number 1. So depending on whether we order by power KW or top speed KM, we'll get a different result on this page. Now that's really a Boolean condition insofar as if we can ask a question and then say, hey, order by power KW if the answer is yes, but then order by top speed KM if the answer is no. If we can do that, now we've got ourselves a valid way of asking good questions. So let's jump back to our notepad and see if we can construct the right SQL query to ask that question. And this is where it really comes back to your knowledge of SQL again. Now, one question that we can ask at this point, and remember, it's very, very context specific. We have to use the right syntax in the right place. So how we'd inject into a where clause with a blind injection attack is very different to how we need to inject into this order by statement. Now, one pattern we can use here is we can use a case. And basically what case says is case when something, then use this column, else use that column, end. So the case when, then, else, end syntax that we can use in order by will allow us to ask a question and then get a different answer based on the result. So let's do this. Let's use this when condition to find out the number of tables in the sys.tables system table. And what I actually want to check here is when the number of tables is equal to 10. So let's do this. Select count star from sys.tables equals 10. So pretty self-explanatory. The syntax is the main thing to get right. Obviously we're going to say this condition will simply be true when there are 10 tables. And if it is true, I want to order by power KW. Now, if it is false, then what I want to do is order by top speed KM. So depending on the resulting order of this page, we're going to be told whether there are 10 tables in the database or not. Let's copy that onto the clipboard, over here into the browser, and we're going to replace this existing parameter here with what's on the clipboard. Let's give that a go. So here we can see the Koenigsegg has come up in the first position. Now the Koenigsegg was our else result for the question of whether or not there were 10 tables in sys.tables. Now clearly there are not 10 tables because we're seeing the Koenigsegg. But what if we did this? What if we asked, are there less than 10 tables? So we tried it this way. Now the Bugatti Veyron's at the top. So the answer is yes, there are less than 10 tables. And all we have to do now is just narrow down the query. So let's ask if there are more than 5 tables. Bugatti's still at the top, so yes, there are more than 5 tables. Let's see if there are less than 8 tables. No, there are not less than 8 tables. We've got the Koenigsegg at the top. So we're narrowing down this range of different possible results. Let's ask very explicitly now, are there 8 tables? So we'll make that an equals. Run that, and the Bugatti is at the top. So the answer is yes, there are 8 tables in sys.tables. Now by taking this approach, by starting to use less than or greater than, we can greatly reduce the number of requests we have to make because now we're asking about a range of different possible answers instead of asking about one very specific result. Now when you ask about ranges, you can start halving those ranges with each subsequent question. So for example, you could ask, is it less than 12? Yes, it is. Is it greater than 6? So we've gone halfway. Yes, it is. Is it less than 9? So you see how you keep splitting the difference in order to minimize the number of requests that need to be made. But that was really the easy bit. That's just a numeric question. What happens when we want to get specific and we actually want to know letters? So for example, what happens if we want to know the name of the first table in sys.tables? Well, now we've got to start asking a very different question. We could ask this question very specifically. So for example, we'll go back to Notepad. We could ask if the top one name is equal to foo. So that would be a yes or no question. Let's try that. We'll copy that onto the clipboard. We'll paste it back into this order by clause here, all the way through until the and ascending query string parameter, and we'll run that. Now it runs, there's no error, so our syntax is right, but we get the Koenigsegg. So the answer is no. The first table in sys.tables is not called foo. And remember, at least for Microsoft SQL Server, the default collations are usually not case sensitive. So it's not foo all lowercase, and it's not foo with any other combination of cases. But the chances are it was never going to be foo. And although we could guess at some table names and probably get a hit every now and then, this is not really a way of enumerating through and getting an accurate list of all the tables. We have to stop asking such specific questions and ask a more generic question. And the question I want to ask is, what is the first letter of the table? There are still obviously 26 possibilities there, but let's just ask that question. So I'm going to jump back to Notepad again, and let's now change this query. So here's what we'll do now. Rather than selecting the entire top one name, we're going to get just the first letter of name. So that's going to require us to do a substring. And it looks just like this. Substring, and then the parameters of the substring method take the name first, the start character, and then the number of characters you'd like to take from that start character. And in this case, it's just going to be 1. So this pattern will give us the first character only of the name column. And then of course, rather than comparing it to foo, we'll just compare it to A. So obviously first letter of the alphabet. Now this is going to be somewhat laborious, but in a moment we'll see how to expedite this process. Let's just start here. So again, we'll replace what we've already got there, paste it in, load it up, and it's still the Koenigsegg in number 1 position. So the first letter of the first table in sys.tables is not an A. Now we could keep going, but clearly this is going to be really, really laborious if we have to keep guessing every single letter. And that's just the first letter of the first table too. Inevitably there are going to be a lot more letters to guess. But there's a smarter way of doing this, and that's enumerating via ASCII values. So let's go and take a look at what I mean by that.